Hello to all of you wonderfully killy people. Welcome to Let's Get Critical. My name is Waaagh. Here is the roster for the kill team Wrecka Krew, and they are what I like to call an 8 operative semi-elite kill team. All of the operatives in the kill team have 2 APL, but they have a faction rule that adds +1 APL to their stats if they perform the shoot or fight action. It's all the operatives except for the bomb squigs operatives which can't use the rule. So this can essentially make them operate like an elite kill team if you play them aggressively. You have 1 Boss Nob operative. It's a mandatory selection. He has 2 fixed weapon loadouts. He has the rocket pistol and the smash hammer, or 2 rocket pistols and chopper. Next, you must take 2 bomb squigs operatives. They have a fixed weapon loadout. Then you're left with the choice of choosing 5 operatives from the following list. You have the Breaka Boy Demolisha, the Breaka Boy Fighter, the Breaka Boy Krusha. There's Tankbusta Gunnner with either heavy rocket launcher fists or rocket launcher and fists, and there's a Tankbusta Rokkiteer with either rocket launcher, pulsar rocket and fists, or rocket launcher, rocket rack and fists. Now, other than Bomb Squig, Breaka Boy Fighter and Tankbusta Gunnner, your kill team can only include each operative on this list once. And if you play using the approved ops mission pack, then you get to choose your TAC op from either security or seek and destroy. And if you play using the preliminary ops in the call book or the kill team light rules on the app, then you won't have to worry about those. Next, let's look at the faction rule for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Wrecka Krew faction rule, Wrecka Rampage. Whenever a friendly Wrecka Krew operative is shooting, fighting or retaliating in the roll attack dice step, for each attack dice result of 6 you retain, you gain 1 Wrecka point. You can spend up to 3 of your Wrecka points unless it's a bomb squig, then you can't spend any, and for each point you spend this way, retain 1 of your fails as a normal success instead of discarding it. You cannot have more than 6 Wrecka points at once. You can gain and spend Wrecka points during the same action and can do so in any order of your choice unless you started the action with 6, in which case you can only spend them. So the rule for the Wrecka points is one of the best things about the kill team, in my opinion. You know, you start the game with 0 Wrecka points, and then when you shoot, fight or retaliate, for every Wrecka point you score, you get 1 Wrecka point. I mean, it's that simple. Now, the lethal 5-up rule does not count, and neither does like severe or rending. It's got to be unmodified rolls of 6. So for an example, if you rolled a 2, a 2, a 3, a 3, a 5 and a 6, well, your 2, 2 and 3 would be fails. You don't score anything for those. The 5 would still be upgraded to a crit, so you end up scoring 2 crits, but you only score 1 Wrecka point because you only get a Wrecka point for the unmodified roll of a 6. When spending Wrecka points, you can only spend up to 3 in any one activation, which is pretty simple as well, and obviously you can't use them on the bomb squig. I mean, that's kind of standard, and you need to be careful of the final part. Now, where it says here you can start the action with 6, in which case you can only spend them. Right at the end it says unless you start the action with 6, in which case you can only spend them. Now, my advice is if your Wrecka points are full, then you always need to spend 1 or 2 of them before you roll the dice. Because if you have 6 Wrecka points already, and then you rolled another 1, because you rolled 6 dice, got another, then you can't add that to your Wrecka point score, and it just gets wasted. You can't spend a Wrecka point and then add it to your Wrecka point score. You know, you can't do that, it just gets wasted. So if you was to say, if you have 6 Wrecka points and you're about to roll the dice, it's always best to spend 1 so you've got 5, or maybe spend 2 of them so you've got 4. That way, if you do roll a 6, you can then knock it up to 5, or if you roll 2 6s, you know, you can take it up to 6. It's not that complicated of a faction rule, and I think it's easy enough to learn, but it is incredibly fun to play, and I personally love the Wrecka Rampage. I'm going to give it a maximum score of 5 out of 5. If used wisely, you can put down some insane levels of damage onto enemy opponents, and you can have a great time doing it as well. Wrecka Krew faction rule, tanked up. Whenever a friendly Wrecka Krew operative, excluding Bomb Squig, that has an engage order performs the shoot or fight action, excluding guard, add 1 to its APL stat until the start of its next activation. Now this rule can essentially make the Wrecka Krew work like an elite kill team, and it can massively help when you're contesting objectives and you're performing actions. The only real downside is that you're left on an engage order quite a lot, because you have to be the one doing all the fighting and the shooting. And remember, it doesn't work when you're retaliating. You don't get an extra action point because you retaliated. It's only when you perform the shoot or fight action. So normally in turning point 1, I'll try to keep my operatives on conceal in good positions, and then in turning point 2, I'll have a few of them, go on engage. But at turning point 3 and 4, I generally have all of my operatives on engage, and I'm looking to maximize my attacks and any counteracts that I might have in the turning point. You have to play this kill team really aggressively to get the most out of him. We've produced a battle report on the channel. I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can watch how I played them in that if you want to. This faction rule for me personally is going to get a score of 4 out of 5. It's a little tricky to get right, and you have to be really selective when using it, otherwise your operatives are just sitting ducks in the kill zone with a +1 APL token next to them. Now, next up we're going to look at the data cards for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Wrecka Boss Nob, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4 up save and 14 wounds. There are 2 range weapons to choose from. He has rocket pistol, which is 6 attacks, hitting on 5s, 4/5 damage, range 8 and blast 1. And he also has 2 rocket pistols, which has 2 profiles. The focus profile is 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/5 damage, range 8, blast 1 and ceaseless. And the salvo profile is 6 attacks, hitting on 5s, 4/5 damage, range 8, blast 1 and salvo. He has 2 melee weapons. The first is a chopper. It's 4 attacks hitting on 3s with 4/5 damage, and then he has smash hammer, which is 4 attacks hitting on 3s with 5/6 damage and brutal. So the core stats for the Wrecka Boss Nob I think are pretty cool. The 6-inch move, 4 up save, 14 wounds are very decent. The 2 APL is kind of standard, but like I say, there are faction rules and abilities to increase that throughout the match. Now, as far as the weapon loadouts go, you can either take the rocket pistol and the smash hammer, which is the loadout I did when I built mine, or you can take 2 rocket pistols and chopper. So you don't get to choose the rocket pistol and the chopper. You're kind of stuck with those 2 fixed loadouts. He's a solid enough operative. I enjoy playing with mine. Now, to help you out in the kill zone, you've actually got you've got 1 unique rule, and then there's 1 unique weapon rule. The first is the unique rule. We'll go through that because it doesn't matter what weapon you take with you, but the unique rule is called Wrecka Boss. Whenever this operative performs the shoot or fight action, excluding guard, you gain 1 Wrecka point. So this rule is really simple to use, but you kind of just have to remember that when you have 6 attack dice on your rocket pistol, every time you roll those dice, on average, you're going to get 1 6, plus you get 1 Wrecka point because of this rule. So if you do have a full Wrecka tank, then you want to spend 1 or 2 of those Wrecka points before you roll the dice, otherwise they will get wasted. But apart from that, this is a strong rule, and it makes the Boss Nob deal quite a bit more damage when he performs his attacks. He's also got the special rule. Now, like I say, the 2 rocket pistol salvo profile has got the range 8, blast 1 and salvo. The salvo profile is unique. Essentially, you select up to 2 valid targets. You shoot with this weapon against both primary targets in an order of your choice, and then against all remaining secondary targets in the same manner, and you roll each sequence separately, and each target, primary and secondary, cannot be shot more than once during the action. So The salvo weapon rule makes the two rocket pistols quite unique in Kill Team. There's not many other weapons like it that I know of. And being able to select two primary targets, you know, you can literally have one primary target over here with a guy next to him, and then another primary target over here with another guy next to him, and you can shoot them both in the same action. It can dish out a ton of damage against multiple targets, and if your opponent isn't prepared for it, then it can easily cost him the game. It's also very good for fishing for those crits as well, because when you're trying to get those sixes to score those Wrecka points, and because the more attacks you make against more targets, then the more you've got for filling up your Wrecka points. And every time he attacks, he also gets an additional Wrecka point as well, so you can very easily, you know, fill your Wrecka tank up when you use the Wrecka Boss Nob. There aren't many games where I got to use this twin rocket salvo ability, but when I did, it was an absolute blast. So the Boss Nob to me is a really solid operative. He has two really strong loadouts to choose from. I think the two rocket pistols and chopper is the most competitive, but they're still, you know, both really, really fun. And it's the Wrecka Boss Nob rule, I think, that just helps to make him super killy with the 14 wounds and a 4-up save. Overall, I'm going to have to give him a maximum score of 5 out of 5. He's definitely very, very solid, and he's great fun to play with. Next, let's look at the next operative for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Breaka Boy Krusha, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save and 12 wounds. He has just one weapon system. It's called Knuckle Busters. It's a melee weapon. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5-6 damage, brutal, shock and smash. So this is the first of the other operatives, the standard operatives. This is one of the specialist operatives that you can take only once. He's a solid enough operative. His core stats, like I say, are practically the same as the Boss Nob, except he's got 2 less wounds, and he doesn't have a ranged weapon. This is purely a melee character. He has one special rule, a unique rule, sorry. It's called Armored Up, and he also has, like I say, the weapon rule called Smash. The first one we'll look at is the one called Smash. So whenever you strike, you can move the enemy operative in a straight line increment of up to 1 inch. If you do, it must end the move further away from this operative and in a location it can be placed. Then move this operative in a straight line increment of up to 1 inch, but it must end that move within that enemy operative's control range. If either isn't possible, then you cannot move them. So it's essentially a rule that allows you to not only, you know, charge in and fight and obviously damage your opponent, have a normal kind of fight with them, but you get to move them out the way as well. So I found this rule to be very useful, and in lots of my games I like to use the Breaka Boy Krusha to clear objectives, to clear accessible points like doors on Volkers, and also hatchways and breach points on things like Gallowdark and Tombworld. Many of your opponents will try to block these areas in the kill zone, and this model is absolutely brilliant for dealing with those situations, and if he can't kill them, then he can just smash them out the way. His knuckle busters aren't the best weapon at killing, so if you roll badly and you don't score enough to kill your enemy, then you've always got the smash rule, like I say, to move them and deal some damage while you're doing it at the same time. The next rule, like I said, was called Armored Up, and this is like a standard rule. Now, whenever an enemy operative is shooting this operative, or this operative is fighting or retaliating, your opponent cannot retain attack dice results of less than 6 as critical successes. Examples are as results of rules like lethal, rending, or the severe weapon rule. So having the ability to worsen your opponent's damage output is always nice in Kill Team, and this rule means that your opponent can't activate lots of his special weapon rules, like you say, lethal 5-up, severe rending. None of those work, they can't score crits from them. It means that your opponent will really struggle to generate crits against this operative, and it pairs really nicely with the brutal weapon rule on the Krusha's Knuckle Busters, because when you have the brutal weapon rule, it means your opponents can only block with crits. So having this Armored Up unique rule means that they struggle to score crits. So they do work together brilliantly, actually. I've had no problem playing with this Krusha operative. It's a very strong operative to play. He is only a melee operative and he doesn't have a ranged weapon, but I'm going to give the Krusha operative a final score of 4 out of 5. The unique rules gives a lot of extra utility in the kill zone, and it's exceptionally good at clearing objectives and hatchways and those sorts of things. Let's look at the next operative for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Breaka Boy Demolisha, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4 up save and 12 wounds. He has 1 melee weapon with 2 profiles. It's called Tank Hammer. He has a bash profile of 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4, 5 damage. And he has a Tank Hammer detonate profile at 4 attacks, hitting on 3s. There is no damage because of the special rule, and then it's lethal 5 up, limited 1 and detonate. So the reason there's no damage there is because obviously that's covered in the special rule, which we'll go through just now. But all in all, he's another one of the melee specialists, so you can only take 1 of these, and he's obviously just got the 1 melee weapon, no range weapon. The standard bash profile, it's similar to a smash hammer, 4 attacks, but it's obviously got 4-5 damage instead of 5-6, and it doesn't have brutal, but he does make up for it because he's got this detonate profile. So there are 2 rules. You have a reckless temperament rule. I'll go through that one quickly now for you. Normal damage of 4 or more inflicts 1 less damage on this operative. If this operative has an engage order, critical damage of 4 or more also inflicts 1 less damage on this operative. So this is quite a common way to reduce damage from incoming attacks. It's found on lots of data cards and lots of other kill teams have got it. The good thing about this rule is it works against range attacks and melee attacks, but the bad thing is you need to have the operative on an engage order to reduce the critical attacks by 1 as well. So if you're on a conceal order, you can reduce the damage of normal successes, but if you want to do normals and criticals, then the operative must have an engage order. So that's how that rule works. And the other rule is a unique weapon rule that goes with the Tank Hammer detonate profile. The first time you would inflict damage on an enemy operative with this weapon during the battle, inflict d6 plus 6 damage on that operative and each other operative within its control range if it's a normal success, or 2d6 plus 6 damage if it's a critical success, rolling separately for each. Then the action ends. You gain 1 Wrecka point plus 1 for each operative that was incapacitated during that action, and damage from this weapon cannot be ignored or reduced. So it's a bit of a long rule, and you know, it's not really that complicated. It's really strong and it's incredibly fun to play, and it can deal out a lot of damage potentially, and usually if you hit them with a crit, you know, it will kill them in one go, but obviously as it hits everything in your own control range, you have to perform it on yourself as well. It's a limited 1 weapon rule, which means that this profile can only be used once per game, but it's definitely worth learning it and playing it properly. So when you select this weapon rule, you then roll the attack dice. Now your opponent doesn't need to roll their attack dice, you know, because once you strike them, it will end the fight action. If you roll at least 1 crit, and yes, that does include a 5 because a lethal 5-up weapon rule, you know, will be retained as a crit. You won't get a Wrecka point for it, but it still classes as a crit. Then you just roll 2d6 and you add 6 to the result, and the enemy operative takes all of that damage and there's nothing they can do to save it. And if it doesn't get to strike you back, so he doesn't get to strike you back, because after you've hit him once, the activation ends. So for instance, if you roll a 3 and a 4, then you simply add those together to make 7, and then you add 6 to it, giving you the 2d6 plus 6. That would total 13 wounds of damage, and the enemy operative just takes all that damage. They can't do anything to save it. If it kills them, it kills them. If they survive, they survive. It's simple. Now, if you don't roll a crit and you only manage to roll at least 1 hit, then you do the same as above, except instead of 2d6 plus 6 damage, you just roll 1d6 plus 6. So for instance, you might roll a 2 and then you add a 6 to it for your 1d6 plus 6, and that totals 8 wounds of damage. The enemy operative takes all of the damage, it can't save it, and obviously, you know, the activation ends. They don't get to hit you back. So what happens if you don't roll a single crit or a single hit? Well, if you don't get to use this rule because you didn't inflict any damage on the enemy, and the activation will end. So that means the enemy will get to roll their attack dice, and then they can inflict damage on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And remember, you have to inflict damage to use this rule, so you won't get a Wrecka point back unless you inflict some damage. So essentially, you must roll at least one hit to activate and to use this rule successfully. And the way to get around this, to make sure, is to just make sure you have at least one Wrecka point before using this. Because if you don't have any Wrecka points and you roll 4 fails, then you can't use this rule, and the enemy gets to roll his attack dice and just slap you silly, and you can't do squat about it. So I hope that kind of makes sense. It's a tricky rule to play, and like I say, make sure you have at least one Wrecka point, because you can't gain the Wrecka point in the rule unless you inflict some damage. So, you know, if you roll nothing and you've got no Wrecka points, there's nothing you can. It's happened to me in a game. It's really awkward. Just make sure when you use the detonate profile that you have one Wrecka point. Now, after you've attacked the enemy operative, you then do the same for all the other operatives within its control range, and yes, that includes the Breaka Boy Demolisha. So it's a sort of suicide attack that could potentially one-shot kill a lot of operatives. And remember, you get one Wrecka point every time you inflict damage, and you also get one Wrecka point every time you incapacitate an enemy, so it's really good for filling up that Wrecka tank as well. This operative is a ton of fun to play, and I always take him just because of how wacky its detonate rule is. I'm going to score the Breaka Boy Demolisher though a score of 4 out of 5. It's a very strong operative, but he's just not strong enough to give him a maximum score. Let's look at the next operative for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Breaka Boy Fighter, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save, and 12 wounds. He has one weapon. It's a melee weapon called Smash Hammer. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5-6 damage, and brutal. The other operatives we've looked at were all specialist operatives that you can take only once. So the Krusha, the Demolisher, you can only take one of those if you choose to. This one, you can take as many times as you like. If you wanted to do a wacky melee build, you could take the Boss Nob, 2 Bomb Squigs, and you could take 5 of these guys if you want to. I mean, I'd always take the specialist myself personally. I've done some melee builds before, you know, they are great fun to play, but I do like to take the range guys as well. Now, his Smash Hammer, like I say, is really strong. It's the same profile as with the Boss Nob if he takes a Smash Hammer with him. He does have one unique special action, and it's called Break Stuff. It's 1 action point, and you select a terrain feature within this operative's control range. If it's an equipment terrain feature, you just remove it. Otherwise, place one of your breach markers within this operative's control range as close as possible to that terrain feature. Whenever an operative is within 1 inch of that marker, it treats part of the terrain feature that are no more than 1 inch thick as accessible terrain. This operative cannot perform this action while in control range of an enemy operative, or if a terrain feature isn't within its control range. So being able to breach through terrain is a really useful thing to do in Kill Team. The Orcs Commandos had like the Breacher Boy to do it, and now the Orcs Wrecka Krew use the Breaka Boy Fighter. So like I say, if you take lots of them, then you can have like the whole Kill Team. If you took 5 of them, then you've got 5 operatives that can just smash through terrain and charge through. You know, it's really fun, and it's a cool action point. Now, I've used this in most of the games I've played. Like I say, it's super useful, and you should always be looking for spots where you can play this operative so it can break through and kill enemy or score objectives. Another good thing, like it says in the rule, is it can destroy and remove terrain features. These are things such as barricades and ladders, and I did have a game against an opponent who had 2 light barricades, and I just removed them from the game and completely spoiled his game plan, and there was nowhere for his operatives to hide. It was great fun. Because there are only 3 operatives to choose from and you have to pick 5, then like I say, you'll be able to take 1 or 2 of these if you want to. I always take at least 1 Breaka Boy Fighter because the break stuff action is really useful and it gives the whole kill team a tactical boost. Now I'm going to score the Breaka Boy Fighter a 4 out of 5. It's a strong and playable operative, and I would recommend personally that you take at least one of them in your kill team selection. And this is the last of the melee operatives, so now let's look at the ranged operatives for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Tankbusta Rokkiteer, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save and 12 wounds. And there are 2 range weapon options. The first is his pulsar rocket. It's 6 attacks hitting on 5. There is no damage on this weapon. It's covered in the rule. The weapon rules for itself are heavy, reposition only, limited 1 and pulsar. You have the rocket launcher, which is 6 attacks hitting on 5s, 4/5 damage and blast 1. And then you have the rocket rack limited 1, which is 6 attacks hitting on 5s, 4/5 damage. It has blast 2 inches, heavy reposition only, limited 1 and relentless. So essentially he has a rocket launcher, and then you either take the pulsar rocket or the rocket rack. And then he has a melee option, which is fists. It's 3 attacks hitting on 3s and 3/4 damage. So this is the first of the ranged operatives. It's the only specialist ranged operative that you can take, and you know, he's very much, you know, standard. I mean, his melee option, fists, is just generally for retaliating. You'd never charge in and fight anyone. You'd always, you know, prefer to shoot. And like I say, he has to take the rocket launcher. The Rokkiteer's stuck with the rocket launcher, which is 6 attacks on 5s, 4/5 blast 1. But then you get to choose the pulsar rocket or the rocket rack. The rocket rack, obviously, the rocket rack just extends the blast range and gives it relentless, so you get a full reroll. But the pulsar rocket has got its own special rule called pulsar, which we'll look at now. So pulsar, don't select a valid target. Instead, place your pulsar marker visible to this operative or on a vantage terrain of a terrain feature that's visible to this operative, and that marker gains 1 pulsar point. Then you roll attack dice and it gains 1 additional pulsar point for each success, to a maximum of 3 additional pulsar points. And then you separately inflict D3 damage on each operative wholly within X inches of that marker, where X is the marker's pulsar points. Then the action ends. So yeah, it's a bit of a kind of long-winded, complicated rule. So as always, you know, I'm going to go through it again because I found this to be a bit bothersome and awkward, and it doesn't really prove to be that competitive as well. So what I'm going to try and do is just break it down into my own words to try and help you understand it better. So instead of selecting a valid target, you select a point that's visible to this operative and you place your pulsar marker there. Or you can choose a terrain feature, a vantage terrain feature that's visible to this operative, and you place the marker down on there, and then it doesn't have to be visible. If you place it on vantage terrain and can't see it, it's still okay. But if you place it on the kill zone floor, then obviously it has to be visible. The marker gains 1 pulsar point when it's placed down. Whether it's on the floor or on a vantage, it's irrelevant. You get 1 pulsar point. Then you roll your attack dice, but instead of scoring hits and crits, you score more pulsar points, up to a maximum of 3 additional pulsar points. So if you score a normal or a crit, it doesn't matter. They're both worth 1 additional pulsar point, up to 3 additional pulsar points. So the maximum score you can get is 4 pulsar points. 1 for the marker, and then up to 3 more for any crits and hits that you roll. Okay? Then what you do is you roll a D3 damage for each enemy operative that's within X of your marker, where X is the number of pulsar points you scored. So here's your marker here now. If you scored an extra 1 pulsar point, add that to the 1 pulsar point you have is 2. So 2 inches from that marker, there's a radius. Anything within there gets D3 damage. If you scored 3 additional points, plus the 1 points for the marker, that's 4 pulsar points. Well, that would mean X is 4 inches of the marker. So the marker's here, you then drew a 4-inch radius of the marker. Any enemy operatives within 4 inches of the marker would take D3 damage, and then the activation ends. So the rule, it is pretty straightforward once you've gotten used to it, but it is a bit tricky, and hopefully me rambling on has helped to understand how to use your pulsar marker when you're playing in the kill zone. And like I say, the Tankbusta Rokkiteer does have one additional rule as well. It's called Shockwave. Whenever an operative is within X of your pulsar marker, worsen the hit stat of its weapons by 1 and subtract 2 from its move stat. And yes, this is cumulative with being injured, and X is the marker's pulsar points. In the ready step of each strategy phase, subtract 1 from the pulsar marker's points, and if a pulsar marker has 0 points, remove it from play. So it's another bit of a kind of, awkwardly rule, but I'm going to kind of go through it again. Now this rule, it does pair brilliantly with the pulsar rocket rule, because when you obviously do that first pulsar rocket rule, you put the marker down and then you build a radius around it based on the number of pulsar points, and any enemy operatives take D3 damage. But what it also does is enemy operatives that's within that pulsar marker radius, you also worsen the hit stat of its weapons by 1, and then you subtract 2 from its move stat. And because it's cumulative with being injured, it means if an enemy operative was hitting on 3s and it's within your pulsar marker radius and it's injured as well, then they'll now be hitting on 5. So it's quite a big nerf for those range models. And then every turning point after, you reduce the range of the pulsar marker effects by 1 inch. So if you used this in turning point 1 and you scored 3 pulsar points, it would give you a effect radius of 3 on the marker, and then in turning point 2 it would reduce down to 2 inches, and then in turning point 3 it would be reduced down to just 1 inch, and then in turning point 4 it would be 0, so the pulsar marker would be removed from play. So the pulsar rocket and the pulsar weapon rule and shockwave all work together to kind of create a synergy around this. To me, the operative's pulsar option is not the best. I've explained it as best as I can. I've used it a few times myself, and like I say, it's been awkward and it's been bothersome. But if I was you, I would definitely take the Tankbusta Rokkiteer, but I would take the rocket rack, which essentially just means you get an extra inch on your blast and you get a relentless reroll as well. So 6 attack dice with a full reroll, it's much simpler and it's actually more competitive, and it's really fun to play. Overall, I'm going to score the Tankbusta Rokkiteer a very solid 4 out of 5. If you take the rocket rack, it's definitely a 4 out of 5. If you were to take the pulsar rocket, I'd probably only give it like a 3 out of 5, really, possibly even a 2 out of 5. But realistically, you should always take the Tankbusta Rokkiteer with the rocket rack, and he scores a 4 out of 5. Now let's look at the next range operative for the Kill Team Wrecka Krew. Tankbusta Gunner, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save and 12 wounds. The Tankbusta Gunner has 2 options. You have an heavy rocket launcher option, which is 6 attacks hitting on 4s, 4-5 damage, blast 1, heavy, dash only. And then you have the rocket launcher option, which is 6 attacks hitting on 5s, 4-5 damage and blast 1. And there's a melee option, which is fists, which is 3 attacks hitting on 3s and 3-4 damage. So the Tankbusta Rokkiteer we saw in the last clip was obviously the only ranged specialist for this kill team. Now the Tankbusta Gunner is the standard gunner. You can take as many of these as you want to. You could take the Boss Nob and then 5 Tankbusta Gunners if you wish. You have a choice every time you take one. You can choose either the heavy rocket launcher or the rocket launcher. So you can have 5 with the heavy rocket launcher, or you can have 3 with the heavy rocket launcher, 2 with the rocket launcher. It's up to you. It is a standard operative, it's a melee operative. It's fists again. They'd only be really used for retaliating. You wouldn't kind of charge in and fight. And to help the Tankbusta Gunner in the kill zone and to help the kill team as well, you have a unique rule. It's called competitive streak. Once per shoot action, if this operative shoots an enemy operative that another friendly operative has already shot during this turning point, you gain 1 Wrecka point. Determine this when you select a valid target, but you can include any secondary targets when doing so. Example from the blast weapon rule. So like so many rules in this kill team, it's another rule all about farming more of these Wrecka points. It's pretty straightforward, and if you select a target that's already been shot by another Wrecka Krew operative, you know, you just get a Wrecka point. If it's a blast attack, then you also get a Wrecka point for the secondary targets as well. So you always want to be on the lookout for that opportunity, because obviously it makes it better. Now the Tankbusta Gunner is another strong operative. The choice of 2 weapons and the unique rule means it can dish out damage and it can farm Wrecka points really well. I'm going to give it a score of 4 out of 5. It's a very playable character, and I always will be taking at least one. I prefer the heavy rocket launcher, but some people don't like the heavy dash only part, but I think the hitting on 4-ups, it really makes up for it. So let's look at the next and the final operative for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Wrecka Squig, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 5-up save and 5 wounds. It has 1 range weapon called Explosives. It's 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4-5 damage, blast 1, limited 1 with the weapon rule Explosive, and it has a melee option called Bite. It's 3 attacks, hitting on 4s and 4-5 damage. So the Wrecka Squig is the last operatives that we'll be looking at. Now, like I say, its core stats are completely different from the rest of the kill team. The 5-up save and obviously 5 wounds. They do die quite quickly. It's also the one where you obviously take 2 of these. They're not involved in the kill team for scoring purposes. So although it's an 8 operative kill team, these 2 are not covered for that rule. There's one, because it's got basically 4 unique rules. You've got Explosive, Stupid, Boom and Expendable. What I'll do is I'll go through those rules now for you and explain how the Squigs work. So the first rule we're going to look at is called Explosive. It's obviously on the range weapon. In the weapon rules you get Blast 1-inch, Limited 1 and Explosive. This operative can perform the shoot action with this weapon while within control range of an enemy operative. Don't select a valid target. Instead, this operative, the Squig, is always the primary target and cannot be in cover or obscured. So this is the same rule as it was with the Commandos and their Squigs. The only difference with Wrecka Krew is you get 2. The rule is quite often misunderstood, and when I've been playing kill team, but essentially it allows you to perform a shoot action while you're within control range. So you have to still charge in and then blow yourself up. You can't perform this action if you're not within control range, and the only way that you can get within control range is if you charge. So the way to perform this shoot action is you charge into the control range of the enemy and then obviously perform the shoot, which blows up. It essentially blows itself up because the Squig targets itself in some type of explosive suicide attack, and then it hits all the other targets around it within 1 inches as secondary targets. And obviously this will also include other Wrecka Krew operatives as well as enemy operatives. Now, first you attack yourself, because obviously the Squig is the primary target. So you roll the attack dice and then you roll your own 3 defense dice, and if you kill yourself, which you will do most of the time, then you just leave the model there, and then you attack all the other operatives within a 1-inch radius as secondary targets before you remove the model from play. Now, I personally love the Squigs, and I think they're absolutely brilliant fun, and they usually dish out, you know, a great deal of damage, and like I say, in nearly all cases they'll destroy themselves in the process. And that's how the explosive rule works. It's a shoot action, but you do it in control range, so you have to charge in and then obviously perform the shoot action. The next rule we're going to look at is called Stupid. In the firefight phase, whenever you determine this operative's order, you cannot select Conceal. This operative cannot perform any actions other than charge, dash, fight, reposition and shoot, and it cannot use any weapons that are not on its data card. So this rule is pretty straightforward. When you deploy your bomb squigs with a conceal order, that's the only time that they can have one. But then the first time you activate a bomb squig, you must switch to an engage order, and then it stays on engage for the rest of the game, and it can't do, well, it can't do any other actions that are stated on the data card, which is charge, dash, fight, reposition, shoot. So essentially, it cannot perform mission actions like taking objectives or scoring tac ops, and it cannot open hatchways or breach points or anything like that. So that's the other rule there, stupid. The next rule it has is called Boom. If this operative is incapacitated during a battle in which it has not used its explosives, because remember they're limited one, roll 1d6 or 2d6 if you wish. If any of those results is 4 up, this operative performs a free shoot action with its explosives before it's removed from the kill zone. So the rule's quite easy to understand, all except for the 2d6 if you wish part. Now, why would you sometimes choose 1d6 and on other occasions you choose 2d6 if you wish? Well, the answer is simple. It's because you might have your own operatives within 1 inch of it when it's killed. So if you have some of your own operatives within 1 inch of the bomb squig, let's say, you know, one of your enemy ops came around and blown it up because it's got to have an engage order when it's in the kill zone, and obviously it's next to, say, your boss nob, well, you roll 1d6 and you hope you score less than a 4, because if you score 4 or higher, then you have to perform the shoot action on your own operatives because they're caught in the blast range. So, you know, you don't want to blow up, do you? But if you have enemy operatives next to you, then you choose 2d6, and then you would hope that one of those is higher than a 4 because you want to perform the shoot action and use your explosive ability. So remember as well, when you do the boom action, you can't have already used your explosives. So if you've already used your explosives and somehow you manage to survive and then someone shoots you, no, you can't go boom and use them again, because the explosives weapon rule, the unique weapon rule, is a limited one ability. Now, the best thing with the bomb squigs is to always have them, you know, a good inch or 2 away from your other operatives so they don't blow up if they're killed by your opponent. So, you know, it's kind of like a self-activating rule. It's another cool rule. And then you have the final unique rule for the Wrecka bomb squig operative, and it's called Expendable. This operative is ignored for your operative's kill elimination op when it's incapacitated and when determining your starting number of operatives. It's also ignored for victory conditions and scoring VPs if either require operatives to escape, survive, or be incapacitated by enemy operatives. If it escapes, survives, is incapacitated, determining how many operatives must escape, survive, be incapacitated, etc. So the rule, you know, is a tiny bit long-winded, but like I said earlier in the video, this kill team is essentially a 6 operative kill team. Even though you get to select 8, when it comes for kill ops on the kill grade chart, you obviously use 6. Because these 2 bomb squigs do not count towards kills, which means they're really good for harassing and annoying your opponents to the game. You know, your opponent doesn't get points for killing these, he only gets points for killing the other 6 operatives. All in all, the bomb squigs are a little bit tricky to play because they have so many rules and restrictions, but they're one of the most fun and unique operatives in this kill team. The bomb squigs for me personally get a maximum 5 out of 5. No Orcs kill team would be the same without a bomb squig, and in Wrecka Krew you get 2. Now this brings us to the end of all the operatives data cards. Next, let's look at the faction equipment for Wrecka Krew kill team. Next, we're going to look at the faction equipment for the kill team Wrecka Krew. As always, there are 4 faction equipment options. We have drill rockets, engine oil, extra armor, and glyphs. Wrecka Krew faction equipment, drill rockets. Once per turning point, when a friendly Wrecka Krew operative is performing the shoot action and you select a rocket launcher or heavy rocket launcher, you can use this rule. If you do, until the end of the action, that weapon loses the blast weapon rule but has the piercing 1 weapon rule instead. Now, this is a popular ability and it can be found across lots of different kill teams, either as a ploy or a unique weapon rule or an equipment choice. It's really useful and it will make a big difference to your games. I've used mine on countless occasions, and I've probably used it in every single kill team match that I've played using the Wrecka Krew. Now I'm going to simply score this a maximum score of 5 out of 5. It can be used once in every turning point, which is fantastic. It's extremely competitive, and this is an auto include. You should learn it and use it as much as you can. Wrecka Krew faction equipment, engine oil. Once per turning point, when a friendly Wrecka Krew operative excluding Bomb Squig is activated, you can use this rule. If you do, until the end of the activation, you can ignore any changes to that operative's stats from being injured, including its weapon stats. So this is a really good ability to have in your kill team, and your Wrecka Krew operatives need to be on an engage order as much as possible to maximize their success. So the downside to that is they will get shot a lot, and on many different occasions as well. Having a way to ignore the -1 to hit and the -2 to move penalty every turning point is actually really strong, and you will find you'll use this equipment piece on lots of occasions. Now I'm going to score engine oil a very solid 4 out of 5. It is very strong, especially when you're injured, and it really can help you out and help you to win games of kill team. Wrecka Krew faction equipment, extra armor. Subtract 1 from the move stat of friendly Wrecka Krew operatives and improve their save stat by 1. This excludes Bomb Squig operatives, and it isn't cumulative with the protective rule of a portable barricade from universal equipment. Now, when the Wrecka Krew first came out, this equipment choice wasn't that good really. You had to remove 1 inch from the move stat, and you got to add 1 extra wound. So the Boss Nob went from 14 wounds to 15, and the standard operatives went from 12 to 13 wounds. It was pretty lame. I played it once and I thought to myself, next time I just won't bother. But now they've updated this version of the rule, and extra armor now, you still have to remove 1 inch from the move stat, so they move 5 inches instead of 6, but you get to improve the save stat. So their 4-up saves are now a 3-up save, and this makes the rule incredibly playable, and it really helps to make them feel more like an elite kill team. You can't use this with the 2 Bomb Squigs, but that's okay, and you can't use it with the portable barricade as well. I'm going to score this a maximum 5 out of 5 because personally I take it every single game. Now 5 inches is a bit harder to work with than 6 inches for the move stat, but I've never had much of a problem moving around the kill zone and scoring my objectives and charging in on the enemy. Wrecka Krew faction equipment, Glyphs. When this item of equipment is selected, also select the Waaagh or Destruction strategy ploy. The first time you would use that ploy during the battle, it costs you 0 CP. Whenever you would use it thereafter, it costs 0 CP if you have any Wrecka points. This is another strong equipment option. You can select the Waaagh ploy, which gives your melee weapons the balance weapon rule, or you can select the Destruction ploy, which gives your ranged weapons the saturate weapon rule. Both of these are very strong, and being able to select one for 0 CP in the first strategy phase, and then essentially, do the same after as long as you have Wrecka points. I mean, it's essentially the same as getting 4 free command points. I generally always choose Destruction ploy in turning point 1 because it's unlikely that I'll get any charges off and do any fighting, but then in all of the other turning points after, I just work out whether I've got more fighting or shoot opportunities, and then I select the right option to help me. It's another strong equipment option, and I'm personally going to give this a 5 out of 5. You have to play this kill team hyper aggressively if you want to win lots of your games, and you really should take this every time you play to help you do that. Now that brings us to the end of the faction equipment. Let's now look at the strategy ploys for the Wrecka Krew kill team. As always, there are 4 strategy ploys to look at for the kill team Wrecka Krew. We have Amped Up, Destruction, Tuff Gitz, and Waaagh. Wrecka Krew strategy ploy, Amped Up. Each friendly Wrecka Krew operative that has an engage order can immediately regain up to D3 +1 lost wounds, rolled separately for each. So generally I like to keep all of my operatives except the bomb squigs on conceal as much as I can in the early part of the game. So this ploy doesn't get played a lot in things like turning point 1 or 2, but in turning point 3 or 4 it can be very strong and is quite often played. D3 plus 1 wounds is really useful, and this will help you get out of injury on lots of occasions. There are loads of times when this ploy can be useful, and remember the D3 plus 1 roll is done before the damage from effects like poison take effect, which makes it really useful against teams that rely heavily on those sorts of mechanics, teams like, the Plague Marines and things like that. Overall, I've been quite satisfied with this strategy ploy, and I'm going to score this a 4 out of 5. You will play it from time to time, and mostly it will be played in the later stages of the game, but when you play it, you'll find it's very useful, and it does quite a lot to help because so many of your operatives will just have to be on an engage order. Wrecka Krew strategy ploy, Destruction. Friendly Wrecka Krew operatives' ranged weapons have the saturate weapon rule. So this is a really simple ploy. The saturate weapon rule means that the enemy cannot retain a cover save. If you target them during a range attack and say they're behind cover, they don't get to auto retain a dice, they don't get a cover save. This works on all range weapons, so it includes the rocket pistols, rocket launcher and the heavy rocket launcher. I'm going to give this a very solid 4 out of 5 because adding the saturate weapon rule is always really good. It's on all the range weapons, and if you take the equipment option called Glyphs, you can choose to play this for 0 CP as long as you have Wrecka points available during the strategy phase. It's a very good ploy. Wrecka Krew strategy ploy, Tuff Gitz. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Wrecka Krew operative that has an engage order, you can re-roll one of your defense dice. This is another solid ploy. Like I said earlier, you'll find that to win a lot of games then you have to play this team aggressively, and you will have to go on engage quite a lot as well, which means your operatives are sitting ducks in the kill zone. But with this ploy, you get to re-roll one of your defense dice every time your opponent shoots one of your operatives, and this is well worth a command point, and I play this strategy ploy a lot of times. I'm going to score this a super solid 4 out of 5. It's really useful, especially towards the mid to end point of the game. It's practically useless against melee teams, but it's really, really strong against gunline teams, so the final score's a 4 out of 5. Wrecka Krew strategy ploy, Waaagh. Friendly Wrecka Krew operatives' melee weapons have the balanced weapon rule. So this is the other strategy ploy that you can play for 0 CP if you take the Glyphs faction equipment. It's really good and it buffs your melee operatives quite well. The balanced weapon rule means you can re-roll one of your attack dice. If you have some games where I've had some games where I've performed up to like 7 fights and retaliations combined all in the same turning point, so effectively to re-roll a dice in every one of those would have cost me, 7 command points. You can make lots of value from this and save tons of CP while dealing out more damage as well. And this strategy ploy is going to get a super solid 4 out of 5. And if you play the Wrecka Krew, like I say, with lots of melee operatives, then you'll use this a hell of a lot more as well. This brings us to the end of the strategy ploys. Let's dive in and look at the Firefight ploys for the Wrecka Krew kill team. Next, we're going to look at the Wrecka Krew Firefight ploys. There are 4 of them as always. We have Demolition Job, Just a Scratch, Kaboom, and Proppa Scrap. Wrecka Krew Firefight ploy, Demolition Job. Use this Firefight ploy after a friendly Wrecka Krew operative performs the shoot or fight action. Just before incapacitated operatives are removed, if any, place one of your demolition markers within the target's control range. If it's using a blast weapon, then it must be the primary target. and then whenever a friendly Wrecka Krew operative, excluding Bomb Squig, is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an operative that's within 3 inches of that marker, you can spend a Wrecka point for free, even if you have none, and in the ready step of the next strategy phase, then remove that marker. So this Firefight ploy, for me personally, has been useful on lots of occasions. After you've performed the shoot or fight or retaliate, you just select the enemy, you place one of your demolition markers within its control range. If it's a blast attack, it must be the primary. And then whenever a friendly Wrecka Krew operative is shooting or fighting against that target within 3 inches of that demolition marker, you get to spend a free Wrecka point even if you don't have any. So it's a really super solid ploy that lets you pick on an enemy operative, and essentially you can mark a location like a vantage point or an objective marker. Now I'm going to score this a super solid 4 out of 5. I've had lots of success with mine, and it's proven to be useful and beneficial on lots of occasions. Wrecka Krew Firefight ploy, just a scratch. Use this Firefight ploy when an attack dice inflicts normal damage on a friendly Wrecka Krew operative, excluding Bomb Squig. Ignore that inflicted damage. Now this ploy is just a kill team classic. It's been around for years. It was in the Orcs Commandos. Lots of kill teams have got something like it, like the Iron Halo for the Space Marine Captain. It's really useful. I've used it time and time again, and you'll find there are loads of occasions where removing the damage from one normal hit is enough to either win a fight, to survive, or remain uninjured. Having the option to do this for a command point is really, really strong, and I'm going to score this a super solid 4 out of 5. Wrecka Krew Firefight ploy, Kaboom. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Wrecka Krew operative performs the shoot action and a weapon with the blast weapon rule is selected. Until the end of that action, add 1 inch to that weapon's blast, and it has the severe weapon rule when shooting the primary target. You cannot use this ploy and the drill rockets rule, see faction equipment, during the same action, and note that severe doesn't generate a Wrecka point as it's not a 6. So this is a great ploy, for extending the blast range and to help generate more crits. Those crits you score again from severe, like I say, they don't score Wrecka points, and you can only use them against the primary target, but it still helps to do more damage, and it makes it harder for your opponent to save, and that makes your range attacks a lot better. I tried to use this ploy when I used the Rocket Rack Limited 1 ability from the Tankbusta Rokkiteer, because it has Blast 2, and then you can increase that to 3 inches. And in lots of games I get to hit 1 or 2 extra targets as secondary targets because my opponent wasn't prepared for it. This is a really solid ploy that gets used a lot, and it will really help to make your range attacks more devastating, and like I say, you can catch your opponents off guard when they think that they're outside of your blast range. I'm going to score this a super solid 4 out of 5. Wrecka Krew Firefight ploy, Proppa Scrap. Use this Firefight ploy during a friendly Wrecka Krew Breaka Boy or Wrecka Krew Boss Nob operative's activation. During that activation, that operative can perform 2 fight actions. So this is another really simple, but it's also an excellent ploy for buffing some of the melee operatives in your kill team. You can choose obviously the Boss Nob or any Breaka Boy operative, so it's the Krusha, Demolisher, Fighter, it doesn't matter, any of the melee operatives. But it is nice to be able, to perform an extra fight action during their activation, so they can more or less certainly finish someone off if they didn't kill them the first time. Again, I've used this in lots of games, and it's proven to be very beneficial, and it definitely helps to win. It's a really solid, simple and effective addition, and you'll definitely find use for it, and I'm going to give it a super solid 4 out of 5. Now this brings us to the end of the Firefight ploys, and it nearly brings us to the end of the video as well. What I'm going to do next is give you my final verdict on all of the games that I've played with the Wrecka Krew kill team. So here we are at the end of the video where I'll give my final verdict on the Wrecka Krew kill team. Like I said earlier, they are an 8 operative kill team, but for scoring purposes they're deemed to be a 6 operative team because the 2 bomb squigs are not included in your opponent's kills and they don't score points for killing them. So this is really good. You can use those to, harass them. They're really great fun. You can build a very good gunline team from this, or you can build a very good melee team from this, but personally I think this kill team is best with a mixture of both. If you want to try all the options available to you, then you should try magnetizing the operatives or just buy a second box so you can just make up more of the operatives. Some of the more positive things I've found in the probably 10 to 15 games I've played with this kill team so far is it's one of the most fun kill teams you can play. They are a hyper aggressive attacking kill team and the models have some great rules and some great abilities, and all of the different roster options means you can keep trying new things out for a long time. They have some of the strongest faction equipment and ploys I've seen and got from any of the kill teams in my collection, and you really should learn them and memorize them so you can get the most out of them and keep practicing. They really will quite often give you something to play that will help you win more games. Some of my favorite mentions overall are probably the 2 bomb squigs. They're really good fun to play. They have lots of unique rules to make they're a real asset in the kill zone, and they're also really small so you can hide them easily, from incoming enemy range attacks, which is good because, like I say, they're on an engage order as soon as you activate them and they stay on engage for the rest of the game. Another one of my favorites is the Boss Nob. He has 2 great weapon loadouts to play and a ploy that allows him to fight twice. Like I say, the 2 rocket pistols, probably the most competitive, but the rocket pistol smash hammer is the one I did with mine, and it's still really, really fun. He also gets a couple of extra wounds to help him survive a bit longer. Now on the negative side, the only real negative I can find with this kill team is they rely so heavily on Wrecka points, and also they're quite command point hungry. So if you don't roll many 6s, then they suffer quite a lot there. And also, I find sometimes you're better off going second in the initiative phase so you actually get the extra command point. All in all, they are a kill team that loves to be on engage and they love to take the fight to the enemy. It can be a bit tricky learning the best activation order, and you really should try to get them behind cover as much as possible, to get that auto retain, that cover save. But they are incredibly fun and their faction rules are brilliant, and I've enjoyed every single game I've played with this kill team. My final score for the Wrecka Krew kill team is a maximum fun factor 5 out of 5. I've had a great time making this video. Thanks for watching Let's Get Critical. Have a great day. Bye bye.